Hey, it's John Henny from voiceschool.com, and today I am answering questions from our voiceschool.com members. Hey there, this is John Henny. I am a voice teacher and the author of Beginning Singing, my new book. Be sure to check out my podcast, The Intelligent Vocalist. Hey, if you want to know more about me, please check out my website, johnhenny.com. The first question, I am having trouble singing through my mix. What do you suggest I do? This area of mix is what keeps voice teachers in business. It's the single biggest problem singers have. What is occurring is we have resonances within our voice. And when we're on lower notes, we have one coupling of resonance. Your vocal cords are creating these sound waves. They go through the vocal tract, this tube. And on the lower notes, we have lower resonances that tend to have more of the energy and the interaction. And as we move higher, we move to a higher resonance that tends to be dominant. And what we experience is when we go to make this shift from the lower to higher resonance, almost like from first to second gear, the voice doesn't like to do it. The voice likes to stay in what's familiar. And that is often called chest voice, lower register. And so what happens is as we begin to sing higher, we just start to shout. Ba, 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 and that's where we get into trouble. So what I suggest is going through gently. We have difficulties within the voice. It's harder to sing higher in general than lower. It's harder to sing louder than softer. It's harder to sing on more open vowels than closed vowels. It's harder to sustain rather than just do a short note. So what I suggest when you're attempting to do something, dial down the difficulty levels. So if you're going to sing higher, don't sing as loud, don't sustain, and make it a more rounded vowel. So when you're first working through that mix area, let yourself on an oo vowel. Coo, 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 coo. Now, watch that vowel. Coo, 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 coo. Even though I'm not singing loud, so it's not going to create real problems. That vowel opening, that's going to cause issues when I go to sing stronger. So just stay. Coo, 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 coo. Boo, 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 boo. Gee, 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 gee. Let yourself just touch that area and work up into it. You don't want to rush the voice. Yes, eventually you're going to start to go for more power. But when you're first working that area, take it easy. We don't want to wire in bad habits that we later have to undo. That's a second step we don't want to have to deal with. Okay, next question. One of our voice school members asks, my lungs have been damaged from secondhand smoke. What can I do to combat this? And this is one of the reasons, if you're a singer, you don't want to smoke. Should go without saying, but you really have to be careful about what you're putting in your body. Your diet, staying properly hydrated, drinking enough water, staying fit, and good cardiovascular system, and of course your lungs, your vocal folds in your lungs. When you're drawing that smoke across them, it's not good. So what you want to do is hold the chest nice and open, like I'm kind of proud, and my ribs are open. And then what I want to do is just let the belly expand. I feel like I'm breathing into my back and into my sides. And so we get this nice draw of air. And then I want to hold this open feeling as I press the air out. I don't want to let it all collapse. And working this deep inhale, what that's going to do is that's going to work the elasticity of the lungs. Look, even when we have suffered damage, we can still improve our singing system. If you think about two 80-year-olds, one that's very, very sedentary, and the other 80-year-old gets up and does yoga every morning, 20 minutes of yoga, who's going to be more flexible? And if that sedentary 80-year-old started to work in exercises gently within a few months, that person would be much more flexible. So it's the same thing with our vocal folds, our lungs. We want to keep all of this really flexible. And on that idea, your vocal cords themselves, they are made of ligaments. We need to keep this ligament pliable and flexible. There's then muscle. We need to keep that flexible and working. And then there's the mucosal tissue, and we need to keep that healthy. So we really want to focus on the whole system. So I'm sorry that happened to you, but you can make improvements. All right, next question. This voiceschool.com member asks, is it detrimental to push my voice higher than I know it can go? Or can it be expanded with practice and push? You really don't want the word push anywhere around your singing. When you start to feel you're pushing, there are likely a couple of things happening. Number one, the vowel is probably too open, too wide, and then that's causing excess muscle and tension at the vocal folds. You're going into a shout condition. So if you continue to push that, you can start to have some vocal issues. Imagine you're clapping your hands and then suddenly you start really banging your hands together. Well, your vocal folds are opening and closing hundreds of times a second. In female voices on extreme high notes, it's over 1,000 times a second. So this slamming can start to irritate your vocal cords very, very quickly. What you want to do when you're working on expanding your range, you want to work on smaller, lighter sounds. I say this all the time. Do narrow vowels, do them lightly. I know it's not going to be thrilling at first, but if I'm looking to extend my range, that is pretty easy. That's not putting a real load on my voice. But what it is doing is, number one, it's stretching the folds. It's also letting me feel those coordinations and the sensations of those higher notes. It's allowing me to control the vowel. It's allowing me to control my vocal fold closure so I'm not slamming everything together. Now, by the same token, you don't want coo, 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 coo. You don't want it breathy. It's a little coo, 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 coo. And then I can change that. I can put a little more on it as I'm able. Guh, 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 guh. And then when I'm ready from that, I can I can start to go in a little more, but take it easy. Never, ever push the voice. It's not going to end well if you keep forcing it. Okay, next question. This voiceschool.com member asks, what key do I sing in? How can I know? And this is a common question, and the answer is you sing in every key. Now, the difference is you don't sing every song in every key. It changes from song to song. And what you really want to pay attention to is something called tessitura. Tessitura is different from the range of a song. A song can have a rather not challenging range. Range is from the lowest note in the song to the highest note in the song. And it could be a song where the range, the high notes aren't necessarily that high. However, the tessitura, and the tessitura means where do the notes tend to sit? The tessitura can all be on that highest note. So you're singing that highest note constantly. Well, that's much more difficult than a song that has a wider range, but maybe you only touch the high note very quickly, and then most of the tessitura is lower. So you really want to figure out where the bulk of the song lies. And that's going to tell you what key you should move the song to. Now, there are some people that if you're covering a song, they think it is sacrilegious if you change the key of the song. And I disagree, because every voice is going to have areas where it just kind of blooms and really takes on a really nice sound. And singers have these pockets that really work well for them. And if you're a lower voice type, let's say that you're a real rich baritone, well, your G or A flat is going to be as thrilling as a tenor's B flat. So you don't need to sing as high in order to have that effect. So don't get caught up on the original keys. But what I do suggest is that you learn to be able to at least recognize the notes on the staff and know where those sit in your voice. So if you're looking at sheet music and you're looking at keys, you can kind of see, okay, this is going to sit in a key that works for me. So there is no one key that you will sing in. You sing in all 12 keys. It just depends on the song. You're not going to sing likely one song in all 12 keys. Okay, next question. This voiceschool.com member asks, how do I start moving from a mix into more of a belt? And these singing terms, they're not exact, but essentially a belt starts to approach a shout and can even go into a shout as long as the singer is able to resist really clamping up and slamming their vocal cords together. When you're first learning to sing, I recommend keeping the vowels a little more narrow so that that shout instinct doesn't come rushing up and making us slam our vocal folds. The shout instinct is hardwired in us and it's ever present. Great singers have to be on guard for the voice wanting to clamp up and shout. But when you are ready to start moving from more of a mix into a stronger belt, you're going to start to open up the vowels. And when you open up the vowels, what you're going to do is you're going to start to boost the high frequencies. For example, if I do this on a vocal fry, if I have my lips rounded, the high frequencies drop. If I open up, you hear the high frequencies get boosted. However, as I open, the danger is I can start to shout. So what you want to do is you want to be able to stabilize your larynx, because when we shout, the larynx just jams up and everything squeezes. So they talk about this concept of an open throat. It's a little bit of an illusion. There are necessary tensions within the vocal tract, but we'll go with it for now. So if I'm going into my mix area and I'm saying, great. But what if I want to sing that more intensely? Well, if I keep this vowel narrow, boop, 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 it's not going to work. That vowel has to start opening up. One, 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 and a little higher. Boop, 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 boop. One, 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 one. That ha! You allow yourself to start opening that up. You can get more and more into that belt. But we don't want ha where everything jams up. So you want to stepwise walk from those more closed to more open vowels. I actually have a course inside Voice School called Boldly Belting that once students have gone through the initial course, they can then go to the more advanced course and start getting themselves belting. Next question. This member asks, why do I have so much trouble singing E and oo strongly? Well, there are acoustic reasons for this. We have what are called corner vowels, and these are the vowels where the resonances of the vowel are the most extreme. The three corner vowels are a, oo, e. On a, both of the resonances are very high, and what that does is that will pull us into a shout. On oo, both of the resonances are very low. And on E, they're both low, and then the second resonance is high. And this very low first resonance, without getting too deep into the weeds of the science, when that goes really low, too low, you're going to flip. That's why yodelers say, yodel, 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 ooh. It's easy to flip on E, but it's hard to belt. So what you want to do is start pulling the vowels towards the center. And a nice center vowel is is wonderful. I was just speaking with a student who's a professional singer who was on a major tour. And he talked about struggling on this one word. And the word was your. But then on the same note, he didn't struggle on the word my. Because the not but that ah, the way it sat, and he formed it just perfectly, it worked wonderfully. But on the higher note, the your was getting too narrow. And when we narrow, we pull away the high frequencies. And those high frequencies, that brightness, that energy is necessary for singing strongly. And so E and oo, you want to pull them a little more towards center. Just like your has to become a little more your. We want E, oo. So that if I'm saying wee, 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 what I can do is feel the one, 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 and then wee, 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 E. Try that. Put an under your oo, and E. Just get a little more depth on the higher notes, and you should feel them start to sit in better. Thank you so much for watching. I appreciate the questions. If you are interested in voice school, there is a link below. Give you all the information. We have monthly Q&A calls. I get in there in the private forum. I answer questions. We have all kinds of courses. It's a wonderful, wonderful program. I'd love to see you in there. We'll talk soon.